Hello and welcome. I'm Naveed Hussain and you are watching The Power Game. The world stood on the edge of catastrophe. A widening conflict between the United States and Iran had pushed global tension to their breaking point. US President Donald Trump issued a chilling warning, threatening to end an entire civilization in one night. After weeks of relentless strikes under Operation Epic Fury, Iran refused to yield. When Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most critical energy artery, the global economy, and regional stability hung in the balance. The world was sleepwalking into a wider conflict, but traditional mediators remained absent. The United Nations failed to take a decisive lead. China and Russia stayed cautious. Europe, strained by disagreement with Washington, lacked leverage. Regional players like Turkey and Egypt faced trust deficit on either side. A vacuum had emerged and time was running out. The world was waiting with bated breath. Into this vacuum stepped Pakistan. April 8, roughly 90 minutes before President Trump's deadline for Iran to expire, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif made an appeal for ceasefire. An appeal that quickly translated into temporary pause in hostilities. Pakistan, long viewed as a peripheral diplomatic actor, suddenly found itself at the center of global attention.
Well, I think Pakistan's decision to mediate was a bold decision, of course, with attendant risks. And the major powers and the United Nations looked completely helpless or unwilling or unable to come and intervene in the crisis. But Pakistan, with good relations both with United States and Iran, took this decision to play its role for peace and stability in the region.
It was a calculated, bold, mature move, and for many reasons. But first and foremost, Pakistan emerged as a natural choice to not just become a go-between Tehran and Washington, but also gradually became a mediator. It has the trust of many in the conflict spectrum. So I think Tehran has sufficient trust with Pakistan. We know that there have been processions in Pakistan where they have openly carried the flag of Pakistan and thanked Pakistan. President Trump, not once but on many occasions, have posed his confidence in the Field Marshal's office and in our political leadership. Then, of course, we are also in a good space with China, which does play some quiet diplomacy and influences Tehran to come to the negotiating table. Then Pakistan is also in a very good place with Moscow.
Pakistan, based on its geographical location, Pakistan based on its deterrence power, Pakistan based on its ambition, its political will of being a security stabilizer, is the perfect candidate to become a mediator to any conflict in the region. Because all of the conflict, especially in the last 4 decades, like 40, 50 years if we see, they are all based on the region which we are living.
We did bring the two parties together onto the table, and subsequently we also succeeded in brokering a ceasefire, which is holding even now. So I think it was a bold decision with some risks, but I think Pakistan took the right decision.
However, Pakistan's intervention was not without precedent. Not to overlook the discreet but significant roles it has played in global diplomacy in the past. In the early 1970s, Pakistan opened the door of China for the United States, paving the way for Richard Nixon's landmark visit to Beijing. Then in 1988, Pakistan helped broker the Geneva Accords, which led to the Soviet withdrawal from Afghanistan. And more recently, it played a key role in bringing the United States and the Afghan Taliban to the negotiating table, culminating in the Doha Agreement. These efforts often unfolded behind scenes, but they underscored Pakistan's ability to act as a conduit between adversaries.
In 1971 also, Pakistan had facilitated brokering peace between the United States and China, who were poles apart. And then, of course, in 1972, the visit of President Nixon took place to China, and then subsequently establishment of diplomatic relations. The geopolitical landscape, global landscape, changed entirely after that. So that was a seminal role which Pakistan played at that time. And yes, you have also mentioned subsequent participation in the Geneva Accords on Afghanistan, then latest the Doha Accord, when we literally sort of convinced Taliban and brought United States and Taliban together to sign on to the Doha Accord. And now this one.
This is a cherry on the cake. What we did last two times, Doha, I mean with the Afghan Taliban, and then of course with China, was peanuts compared to the kind of diplomatic footwork that is happening right now as I speak to you. And the kind of maturity Pakistan has displayed and how it is, and this is no secret, so to say. It is not that Pakistan had some edge here. This is Pakistan working very hard, building trust, doing the requisite to and fro, doing the requisite back and forth, switching roles when it had to, not indulging in any ego, doing the tightrope walking to constantly nudge the warring factions to a point where conversations can happen.
We have like a series of backdoor diplomacy, and yes, we are doing that. And we are doing that with multiple countries, we are doing that in multiple conflicts, and its spectrum is not limited to the region like Central Asia, South Asia, Gulf countries. We are diplomatically active even in Africa, in MENA region. So we are doing backdoor mediations in multiple spheres, in multiple countries. Sometimes our Foreign Office openly expresses that. Sometimes we have the news, we know where things are going, what we are doing.
In the US-Iran conflict, Pakistan's acceptability as a mediator rested on a rare combination of relationships. It maintained good brotherly ties with Iran, strategic relationship with China, and newfound bonhomie with Washington. At the center of this effort was Field Marshal Asim Munir, the Chief of Defense Forces of Pakistan, whose personal rapport with President Trump and engagement with other key stakeholders helped sustain communication channels.
Field Marshal's personal rapport with President Trump helped greatly. And I think Prime Minister, because if you see the statements which have come umpteen times from Washington, from President Trump, he speaks highly of Pakistan's mediation, Pakistan's leadership, which is, an acknowledgement by the sole superpower of Pakistan's constructive and positive role in mediation.
The personal rapport did play a role, and it contributed for it to go forward the way it did. And at the end of the day, personal rapport just plays a huge role, not just for Pakistan, but for anybody who's engaged in mediation. So if you have a personal good rapport, it eventually contributes to the whole spectrum of diplomacy, conflict resolution, or just being there to facilitate a conversation.
every player did play his or her role. I mean, institutionally, the Prime Minister was in the lead to reach out to foreign leaders and to the relevant countries, relevant parties, relevant actors. He was constantly engaged in telephonic calls and visits to important capitals, and I mean, this was a constant engagement, which I believe is still continuing.
Personal relations are important. Pakistan is benefiting the dividend of our long-standing classical diplomacy. Our diplomats are always, they always happen to be very realist. They always happen to be very earnest. So our diplomacy is never based on just the flashy sentences and fake promises. We always provide a complete SWOT analysis to our friends and allies.
As Pakistan diplomatic profile rose, India failed to hide its frustration. Narendra Modi government, which has long sought to diplomatically isolate Pakistan, questioned Islamabad's role. Indian officials publicly dismissed Pakistan mediation efforts, while the Indian media adopted an openly hostile tone.
India never feels happy, even for the genuine efforts which Pakistan makes for peace and stability. India has one mantra, and that is that Pakistan promotes and foments terrorism. Now, this narrative of India has failed. No one accepts that. There are no takers in the international community because Pakistan, first of all, has given a lot of sacrifice in combating terrorism. Even now, Pakistan is engaged in mopping out terrorists and militants on the border with Afghanistan and elsewhere. So I'm not at all surprised, but I'm disappointed with the Indian attitude.
Modi went and met with Netanyahu just before the war, clearly stating on whose side it is. And then subsequently, it also, in some ways, stabbed Iran in the back when the Iranian ship was sinked and India had given the information out. So India has not behaved as a mature state. And at the end of the day, I think it is about the choices India has made, and also the exposure was happening before this. Indian hedging was exposed when President Trump came down very harsh on India with the sanctions, because India was trying to engage with the Western bloc, but at the same time wanted to buy oil from Russia, playing both sides of the fence. So I think India already stood exposed, but the war exposed it further.
Critics argue that instead of supporting de-escalation, New Delhi appeared more focused on discrediting Pakistan's initiative. This reflected a broader regional rivalry where diplomatic space is often contested as intensely as territory.
India has received so many setbacks in the last 1 year in a strategic domain, in economic domain, internationally in diplomatic area. So after this conflict with Pakistan in May last year, its international profile has received a big setback. So despite that, instead of introspection and rethinking, India engages in undermining Pakistan's and carrying on with this vicious campaign of ridiculing Pakistan's efforts. So India is in a way isolated. While rest of the world, international community is praising Pakistan's efforts and supporting Pakistan and hopes that even now, when there is an impasse and a standstill in talks between Iran and the United States, that Pakistan's efforts will eventually be fruitful. India is the only country which is neither supporting the process. On the other hand, it is criticizing Pakistan's genuine efforts. So that way India is isolated herself.
So India is irrelevant in this situation. What India thinks, what India says, it doesn't matter. Because India's diplomacy is always based on dishonesty. India has a huge leverage when there was a vacuum in Iran and Iran was isolated. So India tried to create a foothold inside Iran. So India could have used that, could have utilized that. Instead of that, they just provided the ground soldiers for Mossad agents inside Iran, and they created Mossad sleeper cell inside the Iran. So why Iran today is not going to India for asking for, like, please send this message to this country, to that country, because they don't trust these people. India is irrelevant in every sphere, and India's decision to, at this time in this moment, to openly align themselves with Israel is also a very disastrous decision.
Despite initial momentum, Pakistan-mediated negotiation proved difficult. The shadow of past breakdowns, including the collapse of the Obama-era Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, loomed large. Decades of mistrust could not be undone overnight.
Yes, the trust deficit between United States and Iran is huge. Isn't it a success of Pakistan's diplomacy that Pakistan brought these two countries, these rivals, onto the table despite such a massive trust deficit? So I think history will write positively about Pakistan's efforts.
So diplomacy is not an event, it's a process. And the kind of baggage that exists between Tehran and Washington more so. But there is another very critical point here, and that is that the world is used to an Iran that it was engaging with in 2025. It was a compliant Iran, it was a compromising Iran, it was an Iran that wanted to come forward and cooperate with the world. This change of leadership in Iran, you have a hawkish Iran, you have a radical Iran, you have an Iran that says never again, and you have an Iran that wants to leave this table or end these negotiations where it gets what it wants. Maybe it's pound of flesh. And I think that is where some very harsh conversations are taking place. But at the end of the day, I think there's this intellectual deficit in the United States also, which does not completely understand the kind of Iran or the kind of people they're dealing with as of now. And for Iran, it's an existential sort of battle. It is for its survival. So, and I think Vice President Vance actually hinted at it, where he said that the true ground realities are not being projected in the way they should to President Trump, which is creating a war fog, which can be very dangerous.
Pakistan's role in this crisis may not have produced a final deal, but it demonstrated something significant: its ability to operate in high-stakes diplomacy at global level.
Obviously, it was not possible for one round in Islamabad to reach a final settlement. But the fact that if the ground was covered, substantial ground was covered, in terms of 80% of the issues, at least some kind of understanding between the two sides, then that's a big achievement. So whatever 20% issues are left out, I think a sustained dialogue and flexibility on the part of both countries could help. And Iran has given certain proposals, and I think Washington is considering them, although we have seen some reaction from President Trump. But I believe, as per media reports, that soon Iran is going to come up with another proposal, which I hope will receive President Trump's due consideration, because it is in no one's interest that this conflict drags on, neither in the interest of Iran, nor in the interest of Gulf countries, developing countries, not even in the interest of the United States, or for that matter, Europe.
Nobody was expecting an agreement. Nobody was expecting a holistic document which can solve the problem overnight, because the problem include the nuclear program of Iran. It includes now the operationalization of the Strait of Hormuz. It also includes the sanctions, the frozen assets of Iran. It includes the diplomatic isolation, economic isolation of Iran. So it includes so many things. And for each and everything, in these type of negotiations, a country needs different types of experts, teams of experts. Just J.D. Vance and Arachi or the Speaker of Iranian Assembly cannot discuss the nuclear deal and then economic issues, then banking and finance issues. So each round required different experts. So if they agreed on agenda point in near future, or whenever they decided to sit again together, they are not going to say that we have decided and each and every problem has been solved. The only thing which they will say that we agreed on the agenda points and we are now indulging in long-term discussions to solve these problems one by one.
Pakistan has done this tightrope walking between Beijing and Washington for years. It has done this tightrope walking between Riyadh and Tehran. And Pakistan is perhaps the only country who talks to Washington and Beijing. One is a tactical partner or a critical partner, and other is a strategic ally. And Pakistan has created this space for itself, where perhaps Beijing and Washington both accept this overlapping that exists in Pakistan's foreign policy. So it was not something new that Pakistan did. Pakistan had been doing this consistently. This time Pakistan has done this to save the world from the edge of a disaster.
The US-Iran talks appear to be at impasse, but diplomatic efforts continue. New players are stepping in, quietly altering the course of diplomacy. At this stage, nothing is certain. It could end in a deal or in a frozen conflict.
And when conversations stopped, what Pakistan was doing did not stop. Pakistan immediately reverted to damage control, behind-the-door conversations, engagements, so that the peace process, so to say, is not derailed. So I think it's a huge plus. It's a feather in Pakistan's cap.
In either scenario, one thing will be hard to overlook: Pakistan's timely intervention, stepping in at a moment when tension threatened to spiral. Islamabad helped open backchannel, ease tempers, and lay the groundwork for dialogue. Even if the final signatures come later, the spade work for peace may already bear Pakistan's imprint.
Whatever is the outcome of these efforts, Pakistan will not be a loser, because Pakistan is not a party in this conflict. Pakistan took this initiative, sincere initiative, for peace and stability in the region, so that our oil comes from the Middle East. We are an economy which is almost 85 to 90% dependent on the import of oil from Middle East. And if the conflict continues or it prolongs, obviously Pakistan's economy, like other developing countries, will be under tremendous pressure. So it is in our interest, and also Pakistan believes in peace and stability.
From facilitating historic rapprochement between major powers to stepping into one of today's most volatile crises, Pakistan has repeatedly found itself navigating the fault lines of global politics. Yet analysts say that these diplomatic interventions have not always translated into lasting strategic gains.
Pakistan is playing a responsible role, and the dividends of being responsible come. And if there is a change in the security architecture of West Asia, Pakistan is already in with Saudi Arabia. So I don't think that Pakistan should look at it into turn, or we should even talk about it turning into something big, or Pakistan getting, what is Pakistan getting out of it? Pakistan is behaving like a responsible state, like a responsible member of the global community, and actually, like you said earlier, even the United Nations was seen as non-performing. So I personally think that is what we should focus on, and that is what we should be proud of. Everything else will happen later. The dividends will come. Pakistan's role in the region will change. I think it is also going to change beyond the region.
The real test lies ahead. Can Pakistan convert this momentum into lasting strategic influence, or will it remain what it has often been, a crucial but temporary bridge in times of crisis?